Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to look at how the YM in particular unfolded yesterday, which was Tuesday, February the 17th. And in particular I'd like to look at how we use the large degree trend, in other words the higher time frame, on our MTPredictor charts. For new users, we have our STF color, which is this red, black and blue indicator here, but like most indicators it's lagging, and as you can see doesn't change color until a bit later in the trend. So for the more experienced users, what we like to do is take them up a notch in their education and move to using the DPs on the higher time frame, which are leading indicators. In other words, they're on the chart in advance. So I just want to show you this video today to show you a good example of how that will have enhanced your MTPredictor trades from yesterday. So initially you can see we had a history triangle here. This was a buy setup. It was a history triangle because there was actually a double bottom there, so that wasn't stopped out, but that was against a red STF, so standard traders wouldn't have taken it. There was also a buy setup a bit later in the day here that you can see didn't actually go to its first target and would have been stopped out for a -1 hour loss. So initially, if you just took a quick look at this, you'd think, oh, we made a -1 hour loss. However, let's now up it a gear. So let's now move out to our 15-minute time frame. We look for the higher time frame where we look to the charts at between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So on a 3 and 5 minute chart, you'd look to the 15-minute chart. If you're trading, say, Forex on 15-minute charts, you look to the hourly. If you're trading, say, stocks on a daily chart, you look to the weekly chart. Now for this we go back to the prior swing pivot. So before this low here had even unfolded, we'd have gone back to the prior pivot low, which you can see is here. We'd have right mouse click, put our decision point on. As you can see, that caught the low actually from the previous day rather nicely. So this would have been on the chart in advance. Then as the market started to rally up here, you'd have gone back to the last pivot, just like we did here before. Should have gone back to this pivot here, right mouse click, put the DP level on, and remember that this would have been on the chart in advance. In other words, before the market even got up here, this resistance area would have been on the chart in advance. And as you can see, that caught the high of the day yesterday absolutely perfectly. So remember, these are leading indicators. That's why we get you to move to these as you become more experienced. Let's now see what that means as far as our trade setups go on our 3-minute chart. Well, I want to handle this TS2 buy setup later in the day first, because can you see how this came after the market had reached the 15-minute DP resistance zone? In other words, the market had reached a higher time frame resistance, therefore the market was anticipated to decline, or in this case basically chop sideways. So this TS2 buy setup, even though it was on a blue STF, was actually deemed to be against the new larger degree trend. So in other words, we'd hit larger degree resistance, the market is then anticipated to go down or decline, therefore larger degree trend is down, so this would be against a new downtrend, so you'd have been avoiding this one. So instantly this would have avoided our losing trade up here. Let's now have a look at this particular trade setup. Of course, now this is now in the direction of the large degree trend. You can see here we actually hit our, well, we're basically pretty much on that DP there. I think it was just about to the tick on that DP level there. So now the trend would have been up, so it would have been up from this DP support zone up into this DP resistance zone. So this buy setup now would have been with our new trend, even though it's against a red STF, and therefore would have been a good one to take. And as you can see, that would have been a very good setup because the market moved up nicely. However, this was also a special kind of trade setup because this was at large degree support. We then had the initial rally off this larger degree support up into here. This would be deemed wave 1 in Elliott wave terms. We then had an initial correction down here. This would be deemed wave 2. The type of wave 2 correction I particularly like is where it subdivides into a minor or lesser degree ABC, which is exactly what we had into our TS3 buy setup. So this would be a wave 2. In Elliott wave terms, after a wave 2, we're anticipating a strong wave 3 move. So in other words, I'll just take this higher time frame DP out of the way. So in other words, because we're anticipating a wave 3 rally, we're not looking to come out at our first target here. We're looking to come out at our typical wave 3 WPT, which is this target here. Therefore, we'd grab and drag our target lines and drag them up to that higher DP there, which is our typical wave 3 WPT. That would then have been our target. Now please remember that this target would have been on our chart and ready as soon as we'd placed the analysis on. So literally before you didn't even entered the trade, you'd have known that this was our target. And as you can see, the market actually rallied perfectly, and this typical wave 3 WPT, well, it nailed the high of the day absolutely perfectly. So this was the ideal position to basically come out on your long trade. And as you can see, this would have produced a lovely 6.6R profit. This is why the Holy Grail trade setup, which is this particular setup, is one of my favorite trade setups, because it represents the largest potential profit in relation to the smallest initial risk. This is because a wave 3 in edit wave terms is typically the strongest and longest in a completed 5-wave sequence. So you're looking to come in at the end of the wave 2 or the start of the wave 3 to catch the whole of the wave 3 swing to get the largest profit potential in relation to the smallest initial risk. And this is all possible because you knew that this 15-minute support zone had come in already. Therefore the initial rally up, the initial correction down unfolded as an ABC, and therefore your target was the typical wave 3 WPT. This also had the added weight of this being in the same area as our large degree 15-minute resistance zone as well. Again, remember that would have been on your chart in advance as well before the market got there. So you'd have had double confidence that this was a good area to look to take your profit. And as you can see, that would have come out at pretty close to the high of the day. So it was actually a spectacular trade. So this is what we want to do with our teaching with MTPredictor. So rather than just looking at our standard trade setups in our STF direction, which you may do when you first come to MTPredictor, we want to give you the education to take you to higher levels, to use the higher time frame. And can you suddenly see how this can basically increase your knowledge and increase your profitability immensely by not only be able to define the large view trend far more accurately by using the higher time frame charts, in other words multi-time frame analysis we're using here, but also be able to modify your trade management on some particular trade setups like this Holy Grail trade setup, and that will basically be able to uncover some trades where the profit potentials are much larger than initial risks. So all in all, an absolutely spectacular day yesterday for MTPredictor, and a lovely trade on the YM there off that Holy Grail TS3 buy setup.